The southern part of the Big 12, to me, is probably the second hardest division when it comes to all of college football, behind the SEC West. I think all these teams that are the 6 teams that are in this part of the conference could be bowl eligible. Will probably play in bowl games due to anything catastrophic happening, or just injuries, or just a complete meltdown. Start off with Oklahoma. Oklahoma's the number 1 team in the whole entire country, rated number 1 by the coaches, rated number 1 by the media. Landry Jones is a Heisman candidate. The one thing I love Landry Jones, that he throws a great ball, very, very smart, very accurate, strong arm. The one thing about him, he hasn't won that game on the road, that big game on the road against a good, solid team. When he came in for Sam Bradford a couple years ago, he lost in that game against Texas. Last year, the game against Missouri, in Mizzou, he lost that game. And now to probably solidify himself as being a Heisman contender and probably being in New York by the end of the season, he has a big game to show the whole world what he can do, show the whole country what he could do against Florida State in that defense that they have in the third week of the season. I think he could come out and he could show people why he's one of the top quarterbacks. I think he's going to be a first round caliber quarterback when he comes out of the draft, when he comes out and enters the draft. They have a couple questions, especially at the running back position. Who's going to replace that production from DeMarco Murray? DeMarco Murray was that guy they counted on, even though he was injury prone. He was that guy they could count on. They could give him the ball 30 times a game. Coach Stoops said he doesn't think that they have that guy, but they got guys who could fill the spot. They got Jeremy Calhoun, Dominique Whaley, Roy Finch from Florida, and just other players. Brandon Clay. They think he could do it, but watch out for Brandon Williams. He lit it up during spring. Kid from Texas, 5-star kid, fast, very good. Probably the best catcher out of all the running backs, and he's one of those guys that got to be a playmaker. Very talented at the wide receiver position, led by Ryan Broyles, probably the best route runner in all of college football. Great playmaker, kickoff, punt return. Could have went to the draft. He surprised a lot of people coming back. Also, 2 other guys that they have that I like is Kenny Stills from California and Trey Franks. Those 2 are young, 2 sophomores, but I think these guys are that good enough and that talented enough to help Landry Jones out. Also, watch out for Dewan Miller. Miller's that he's 6'4", very fast guy. He might be the fastest receiver on that team. And he's that guy that can stretch the field, while Ryan Broyles and Kenny Stills and Trey Franks, they work underneath routes, because they like to run that fast-paced tempo, those dinks and dunks, and sometimes they like to take shots downfield, and they hoping Dewan Milner can bring them that piece that they always wanted, that they haven't had probably since Malcolm Kelly. Very good offensive line. Coach Stoops, I feel I saw by seeing that spring game that they improved from last year on the line. Hopefully they can get a couple guys back like Jarvis Jones who can play the tackle position for them. Transfer out of LSU. They think he could be a really good guy. But Oklahoma last year, their line took a step back. Landry Jones got pressured a lot, but they feel like this line is a lot better, a lot more experience, a lot more game experience, and they have that chemistry where they can gel. Moving on to the defense, very, very skilled at the pass rush position. The one thing that they have to find out is Ronald Lewis going to be eligible academically. If he's not, they're going to take a hit there. But they have guys like R.J. Washington and Frank Alexander. Those guys, they can get after the pass so they can rush them. They have questions at the defensive tackle position up the middle. Even though it's a passing league, there's still teams that can run the football, and you're still going to need to be stout up the middle, especially if they want to compete for a national championship. The linebacker situation that they have, they lost their heart and soul of that team, Austin Box, due to a tragic death. It really took a lot out of the team. They really think they like this kid Tom Ward though. He's very good tackler, but is he good in space and coverage? Since the Big 12 is more of a passing league, more of an offensive league, so they're hoping that Tom Ward could be that guy who can help out. But losing Austin Box was really key for them. They dedicated the season to him, and maybe that gives them the emotional edge that they need to have that number 1 ranking. And they put this season all on Austin Box. They lost their best player on the defensive line, Travis Lewis, probably their best player. Travis Lewis, he's an NFL first-round guy, another guy they were surprised to come back. He broke his foot. He's out 8 weeks. He's going to miss that Florida State game, which is huge. So they got to move on from that. But they feel like Corey Nelson's that kid that can do it for them. guy out of Texas, very fast kid. He's a star in the making. They have depth at the quarterback position with DeMontre Hurst, Jamel Fleming, and Gabe Lynn, but they're really soft at the safety position. They need to get better at that, more athletic, and to me, not more athletic, but more speed there and more experience. Moving on to Oklahoma State, their rivals, guys, a team that I think they can really compete with. Brandon Whedon, can he continue the hot performance that he went on last season and help this team move up, maybe contend for a national title, get to a BCS game? Who's going to replace Kendall Hunter? 119 yards per game, 16 touchdowns. One of the top 5 running backs, rushing yards he had last year in the NCAA. I think guys like Joseph Randall and Jeremy Smith have experience. They played in that offense last year. They have experience. They have game time experience, and they produced well. They have to step up. But one guy to look for is Herschel Sims. He has the same build as Kendall Hunter. Very good catcher out of the backfield. Can hold and can run the football very well. Strong wide receiver core led by the best wide receiver in all of college football, Justin Blackmon. He's a video game guy. He's just really good. Great hands, great body control. Out-jump you one-on-one. Runs great routes. Is not a speed burner, but if that ball goes up in the air, he's going to get it. Reminds you of Des Bryant and a couple of great wide receivers they had over there. Josh Cooper is a good wide receiver option for them, but watch out for this guy named Isaiah Anderson. He's the fastest player on the team. He's a guy who they feel that can stretch the field for them with his speed and help the guys like Cooper and Blackmon help him inside. They returned all 5 starters on the offensive line that only allowed 10 sacks last year, which was phenomenal. Led by all Big 12 guy Levy Adcock. They feel like he's another guy. Him and Nick Martinez are like the leaders on that offensive line, the leaders on that team. So they're going to help out. Moving on to the defense. Questions at the defensive line. They need to find somebody their line has really struggled. I think this year they'll really struggle to get a pass rush, even to stop the run as well. They lost a lot of guys there. Question at the linebacker position as well. I love Sean Lewis, though. He's a guy that's very good in coverage and a very good tackler. They're very good in the secondary. Look out for Broderick Brown. He's a guy that's probably going to jump on your radar screens this year. And they have great depth at safety, they feel, this year with a lot of teams. Moving on, go to Texas A&M. How are they going to handle this pressure of leaving the SEC, leaving the Big 12, going to the SEC? Can Tannehill, can he handle the preseason pressure of this team being ranked in the top 10 and being a team that they think that can compete for a national championship and the Big 12, or just get to a BCS bowl game? He's taking over for the offense. Moving to running back, very talented running backs with Cyrus Gray and Christine Michaels. That's a 1-2 punch that I like a lot. It's going to be hard to stop them when it comes to rushing, especially Cyrus Gray, because he came on late during the year, had about 800 yards in 5 games. Receiving core, very solid. Jeff Fuller, another big-time playmaker that they have for them, can stretch the field. Ryan Swope is a playmaker on the inside as a slot position. And watch out for Naeem Nix. He's an underrated guy. They feel like he could be a Martellus Bennett type for them. Offensive line is definitely going to be improved from last year. They were young, especially at the tackles with Matthews and Jokel. Those 2 young tackles were for true freshmen last year. Now they're sophomores, so they feel they have game experience and they're ready. On the defense, they're led by Tony Jaron Eddy. But the one thing about that, they lost their best player on defense, and Von Miller. He was the speed. Texas A&M really hasn't had a lot of speed on defense, so I don't know what's going to happen with that. And can their defense really step up in Tim DeRuyter's second year in this system, his 34 system? Can they find that pass rusher, and do they have enough speed on the football field to deal with these high-powered offenses? Moving to the University of Texas, they had a quarterback controversy going on this season. Garrett Gilbert was named the starter. Case McCoy is his backup. How long does Mac Brown give it? Mac Brown's a guy, he doesn't like losing, and you don't want to mess with his winning. So does Garrett Gilbert have a really short leash on him? Got Brian Harsin to become a new offensive coordinator. They're bringing in a whole new different offense that they had from before. They're running the football now. Running the football is a priority for them. They got Fozzie Whitaker coming back. But keep your eye on these 2 freshmen. Malcolm Brown, a highly touted #1 running back coming out. 5-star running back from Cibolo Steel. But watch out for Joe Bergeron. He's one of those guys that have been coming on for camp. He's a monster. Running the ball inside. He's just been running people over in camp. Wide receiver positions, they're very young, but they have playmakers. Mike Davis, John Harris, Darius White. But keep an eye out on a familiar name and a familiar number at it's not him, but it's his younger brother, Jackson Shipley. They're saying he's been killing it in camp. They say he's the best. He's looking like the best receiver during camp. So you want to see what they can bring there. On offensive line, they feel like they have 5 guys that are ready. They have question marks there, but they feel as they get better, this will end up the offensive line, which has been a weakness for Texas, is going to end up probably being a strength towards the middle of the season to the end of the season. I think this defense is really, really solid. Their front set, they have one of the best front sevens in all of college football, led by bookends Okafor and Jeff Coat, 2 guys who are pass rushing demons. He can stop the run up the middle. They don't know what they're going to have at the second D tackle position, but Keaston Randall is a guy who has all Big 12 accolades, first team, and he could probably become an All-American this year. Linebackers, I love them. They got 5-star guy and Jordan Hicks. They think he's going to be a good guy. DeMarco Cobb's another name to watch out for, but it's led by the 2 seniors, Keenan Robinson and Emmanuel Acho. The secondary, they're young at corner, but they're really good. They're going to have Tarrington Bynum, Adrian Phillips, and Quandre Diggs, Quandre Diggs is a freshman, Quentin Jammer's younger brother. They feel like he can be a guy that's going to step up and help, but they're really good at the secondary, I believe, with Kenny Vaccaro, Blake Gideon. They have depth there, and Christian Scott and Nolan Brewster. They have depth there, and they're going to mix in some of those old guys with that young talent. Moving on to Texas Tech. Texas Tech is can Seth Doge, can he replace Taylor Potts? They run that wide open system that spread them around that they've been running since Mike Leach is there. Can Eric Stevens and Aaron Crawford, can they give Tech a respectable running game so teams respect the run? They feel like those 2 guys are great, have great hands out the backfield, but they need to see if they can get a respectable running game. Who's going to step up at that receiver position? They lost receivers like Detron Lewis and Lai Leon, 2 guys who just put up significant numbers for them. It's going to be hard to see who's going to step up in those roles. Neil Brown's going to have to find somebody. And they have a very, very strong offensive line. This year, Tommy Tuberville brought in, they're going to change the whole defense up. They're going to run a 4-2-5 now. Very deep at the defensive tackle positions. They're so deep at that position, they feel that they can move guys that were D ends and move them to D tackles. Like I said, they're very strong at D end, and they feel they can keep those guys fresh, just rotating them in. They're young at linebacker. They need to find something there, and they're very solid at the secondary position, led by Terrence Boyd, who I think who could be a stud in the Big 12 Conference and a name for people to watch out for. Moving on to Baylor. Baylor is one of my teams I really like. Robert Griffin III is going to be special. He's a special type of player. I think he can help this team become challenging in this league. I think he's going to be a Heisman candidate. Let's see what happens there. Running back, who's going to step up at the running back position? Look out for Lake Seastrunk. He's trying to come in and play this year, but he might have to sit out the whole year due to transfer rules from Oregon. Kendall Wright is a playmaker. They lost Josh Gordon in the season, who just left surprisingly. Everybody doesn't know what happened there. Offensive line, they're very strong. They return 4 starters, even though they lose their first rounder, Danny Watkins, to the Eagles. But they feel like they have somebody that can replace him, and they're very strong at that position. They have questions on the defensive line. Who's going to replace Phil Taylor, who ran that nose, who's that nose position guy that just took on double teams? Not a lot of experience at linebacker, but they do have a senior linebacker who's been there since for 4 years. Elliot Coffey, can he be a guy that just helps and builds these linebackers up? Very solid at the corner position, but they're very inexperienced at safety. Look out for Ahmad Dixon this year. I think he could be a guy who could very help out in that safety spot. Like I said, this division is going to be a lot open. I think the one team that people are going to be surprised for, but it's not a surprise, is Texas. Texas is a team